Get her, get her, get her. Come on, get her, get her. Get her, get her. Some of you probably can hear me. Some of you maybe cannot. All right, there's get her, I think, right? Yeah, it appears to be. All right, let's get this party started, man. It is a dance weekend, folks. A dance weekend. Let it roll. All right, quick kill, quick kill. All right, welcome inside the numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, People's Pundit. This will truly be the bring your kid to work day. You can't close that, honey bunny. I need Roro in here. All right, well, when you do, say goodbye. Don't forget to say goodbye before you go. All right. So yeah, there it is. It is a dance weekend, and I will have to have the doggy and the Roros all to myself, which is all right. That's cool, but this is going to be Free Will and Friday on another level. Okay. And it's weird because maybe that's a way we can kind of keep it light, because I got a message. Well, first of all, if you like the videos, subscribe, you know the deal. I want to get to business here. I got it wasn't even an email. I mean, it just was posted, and then somebody from local sent it to me thinking, you know what, did you see this? And I did see it. And somebody said, because I know this is going to be a little bit of a dark, it's going to sound dark. This is like a dark show, but it's just the reality of it, folks. And somebody wrote me on Locals and said, look, I signed up because I know you're the right place to get, the goods from polling, but I've been really upset on how down you've been on, the Republican Party and, their actions. And then, just in general, instead of, I don't know what else. I guess giving those poll results. And here's the deal. Here's what I would say to that, because I've gotten comments like that, and I won't mention the person. I didn't tell them I was going to do this, so I don't think it's fair to just bring their name up. But you're not alone. A lot of people have been asking me, Rich, why are you so down on things? And when it comes to the Republican Party, let me just say this. My job is not to be an advocate for the Republican Party. I can't stand the Republican Party. All right. So in case pollsters don't usually do this, but I got to tell you, I'll open it for you, baby. I got to tell you, I know pollsters don't usually do this, and they're much more impartial about things. But the fact of the matter is, I am not, I don't consider myself to be any party I've registered in the past, because, and I think it's an insult to pretend as if pollsters don't have views. So like I've never done that to you guys, and I understand that I'm certainly not left wing. So here, baby, you want a cherry? Oh, that's a cherry. I opened it for you. Yeah, I'm certainly not left wing, so I've never claimed to be that bipartisan, impartial. Everyone's got their own views. That's a lie. That's an insult to your intelligence to pretend as if I don't have my own views. Every pollster does. Every pundit does. Every election forecaster does. Every news anchor does. And I think we should just be honest about them, instead of like trying to pull the wool over someone's eyes. Like, I'm an impartial analyst. That's BS. We all have our biases, and we must guard against them. When you lie about them to begin with, I don't know how the hell you guard against them. Right? We're in a new age. We're in an age of information, and it is complete BS to pretend like this charade to continue with this charade, that the media is impartial, the New York Times, the flagship, and this one's the arbiter, this one's a fact checker. Oh, this one's a really, really credible pollster because they do work for this paper, and this paper, of course, is balanced. No, they're not. Nobody is anymore. All right. Real Clear Politics is about the only place you can go to get balance these days because they have both left and right sources on their website. And that's the truth. Everything else is a charade. And I would say this, though. I don't want people to mistake it, though. Like, I'm not supposed to be cheerleading for one party or one president or one candidate or whatever. I'm telling you what the deal is. So I knew I was going to get pushed back over this week saying, because I understand my audience and who demographically makes up my audience. And I knew I was going to get some people who were upset with the idea of me saying that, look, it doesn't matter if you win an election or you don't. And you are polling very well right now. And it does look like you're going to win the presidency. As of right now, you would. Things change. 6 months, we'll see. But my job is to tell you the deal. To give you the skinny, folks, the 411. And it doesn't matter if you win an election or not. Republicans, if you are the way you are look, the Trump administration didn't teach you anything. They don't fight like Democrats fight. So they're constantly in retreat. And at the end of the day, election winning, win or loss, you're going to lose this war. If something doesn't change as it stands right now, you will lose this war. So I knew I was going to get pushback on that. And lo and behold, I got it. But that's, to me, I hear you. I just have to say, tough. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm not a cheerleader. I'm telling you what the deal is. What I am, did you just see that? My kid just walked in here. All right. I have to watch my 4-year-old son while my daughter goes and chases her dreams with my wife. I'm on team them. That's what team I'm on. If Trump or some other Republican president was doing to the country what Biden is doing to the country, I would hate him too. Or I wouldn't even hate him. I don't hate. Hate is a strong word. I don't hate anybody. I would advocate against what they are doing as well. And so maybe, Roman popping in and out, asking for a Starburst every once in a while and some more pancakes is going to give a little bit more light to this lightheartedness to this conversation today, because it's not a good week. It's not going to be a good show. It's not going to be a positive show. I'm just being honest with you. The U.S. is in dire trouble, and they just keep kicking the can and just going on like everything's okay. It's not okay. We're going to start with economic stuff first. But listen, folks, in the history of human civilization, no country lasts forever. You got to be on the lookout for this stuff. Maybe if people had listened to Cicero, Rome wouldn't have went off the wagon. It wouldn't have went off, its wheels wouldn't have fallen off the wagon. And that's where I really think we're at, or maybe even a little bit past. All right, so there are some things going on that are extremely difficult to reverse. Let's start with economic stuff, all right? And again, just bear with me because I really feel like this is the right thing to do. All right, so here's an article from the Wall Street Journal, okay? And it says that it's not, this isn't even the new normal under Barack Obama. Remember the new normal? We can't get 5% growth. We can't get 3% growth. 1.5%, 2% is okay. Well, here's the problem with the 1.5% now. We're much weaker than we were back then. So 1.5% now is just not good. That is not okay. So a mix of slowing growth, firm inflation worries investors. How does it worry the investors? Okay, well, because now we're starting to, it's so funny because most of them were so okay with all of this going on. Wall Street, they paid for this. They bought this. They just, I guess, couldn't stand a guy who put workers first. So they had to get rid of him, or help get rid of him, or fund things to get rid of him. And now here we are, and now they're bitching and moaning about how things aren't good for them. Well, isn't that too damn bad? Things are better for them in many ways than they've ever been. But it's people who want to make money. There's always money to be made when there's a collapse. That's the truth. Housing meltdowns, Black Mondays, Black Friday, they make a fortune off of that stuff. Markets fall as another high inflation reading makes it difficult for the Fed to cut interest rates in the near term. We began to talk about this last week. We moseyed on into it today. I mean, this was coming a mile away. Talked to Sean about this yesterday because this, of course, has impact on everyday Americans in the real world. The latest, and remember, statistics, economic statistics especially, but of course, even the statistics we talk about with public polling, they're people. The latest snapshot of the U.S. economy rattled stock and bond markets with two bits of potentially disappointing data. Oh, yeah, okay. Slower economic growth and still firm inflation. Gross domestic product expanded at a 1.6% seasonally and inflation adjusted annual rate in the first quarter. An inflation adjusted. You believe this? The Commerce Department said Thursday. A pullback from last year's quick pace. That lagged behind the 2.4% projected by the Economist poll by the Wall Street Journal. That's one poll. If you've been following me a very, very long time, before Google went on their personal crusade against us, we did nothing wrong except for give people objective data. It was an economic and political data website. But what are you going to do? That's what happens when you're more accurate than others and they don't know who you are, can't trust you, and you give the truth, they go nuts. We used to give everybody what was called a consensus forecast because they're polled by Reuters. We had economic analysts that we work with on Wall Street. They had their own indicators. So if you remember the PBD consensus, that was of all of these people. If you're watching Fox News, if you're reading the Wall Street Journal or even reading Fox Business, they're going to give you the Wall Street Journal forecast most of the time because they're the Murdoch family. They're all within the same family of the corporation. So we gave a consensus forecast. We're no longer around anymore, obviously, at that capacity, although I would like to bring it back. It's a pet project of mine I've been thinking about and am working on slowly behind the scenes. But in the meantime, you can get some good free information from sites like Econoday. I know a lot of people have no idea what I'm talking about, but they do a good job. A lot of it is expensive and you have to pay for it if you want some of the more in-depth stuff, but you can always get simple things like top line consensus for US and some global market indicators. All right. They'll give you a consensus as well. Ours was close to theirs. It was a little different though most months. And I mean, fractionally different, not even marginally different, because we would work with some private guys that were really, really good. A lot of Wall Street people listen to them. They know their whats. So those houses, those analysts in those kinds of houses were worth putting in our consensus. They did solid jobs. Anyway, that's way behind what the Wall Street Journal had anticipated. And as you guys know, even 2.4% growth now is not as good as 2.4% even under Obama or under Donald Trump. Why? Because where we went so far in reverse, we need to grow exponentially to catch up. And remember this when we talk more about some other stuff like the debt and everything, because when we were growing at 3% annually a year under Trump, which is way leaps and bounds ahead, not just a percentage, but leaps and bounds ahead of where we are right now, it was still going to be hard for us to grow and cut our way out of the debt bomb that is heading our way, which it's coming. It's going to hit us. I know people have been talking about it for years, but there's actual real problems now with the dollar, with energy, with housing. I'm not trying to be one of those Glenn Beck, and what's that guy on the libertarian dude, not Rand the Pauls, but there's one of those economic analysis, and he's been talking about this, inflation meltdown for like 30 years. He's right. It's going to happen. It's just that he's always acted like those fringe religious cults from the 1800s where the doomsday was right around. Everyone thinks they're living in the era of doomsday, but it is coming. And 2.4% even now is nowhere near enough to grow our way out of it, especially since we're not growing. Because that is weak economic growth. The Bureau of Economic Analysis, the inflation adjusted number, they will change anything over there and over at the Bureau of Labor Statistics if it makes a Democrat look better. I'm not kidding. I am so sick of this. It's not funny. How they change GDP just to make it look like Trump maybe didn't hit the 3% target. It is unbelievable. But again, when your system is so corrupt, the way ours is, so ideologically corrupt, it is, there's no good news to tell. It's bad. It's nation ending. Some people have to understand that their roles are sacred and you can't bring that shit into them. Like financial reporting and financial data tracking, you cannot let your ideology taint it. Lawmakers need to know the truth. Policymakers of all stripes need to know the truth. Just like the American public should know the truth about their own public opinion. What's worse about this anyway, before I go on, is, and I'm not going to, because I don't know that we're going to, it's already 12:20. I don't know that we're going to have time to read that article. But folks, the government under Biden, I keep saying, because they're both doing the same thing in my mind to the economy. They're turning it into a larger government sector and service sector economy. Whereas Trump was a goods producing economy. It was moving back toward. What's the difference? Well, one favors the rich, the wealthy, the ruling class. That's, of course, the Obama-Biden economy. This isn't debatable. This can be proven with economic data, with empirical data. This is not debatable. We're not on MSNBC here where people take that crap. A goods producing economy does two things, very, very, very important things that make for a strong country. One, it expands the base that is getting a part of the pie. Higher paying jobs. You don't need to go waste your money on a liberal arts degree that's going to bury you in student loan debt anyway. Construction, manufacturing. I'm going to play you a clip in a second. And then the second thing, of course, is that it helps you when you have a goods producing economy. You can mobilize latent power and economic power into military power in the event that you need to do it. At this rate, we're going to have to sub out the creation of, like the Abrams to some Chinese-owned factory in South Carolina. That's the position we're in at this point. Give Ukraine aid. We can't even make bullets. Thursday's report also suggests inflation, using the Fed's preferred gauge, was likely firmer than expected in March. Likely. Why do they say that? It was firmer. A lot firmer. What are you talking about? Firmer. It rose again. That gives investors another reason to give up on the idea that the Federal Reserve could begin cutting interest rates in the coming months. Typically, an underwhelming growth figure would boost hopes that the Fed would lower interest rates, but continued price pressures complicated that outlook. Well, they can't raise rates. They can't. One trick pony is out of tricks now. The inflation reading sparked a sell-off in bonds, sending yields on the 10-year Treasury to 4.706. Back to the high since last November. U.S. stocks fell, meanwhile, with the Dow Jones sliding 1% or 375 points. That's nothing. Investors are now pricing, and I don't care about the markets. I don't give a damn right now about the markets. The markets is a place where rich people make money and they sucker people with their 401ks. That's where markets are. Dumb money, dumb money, dumb money. Where they destabilize the whole damn thing. Folks, if you don't have 24 hours, 24/7 to trade, the only thing you can do in the market is save for retirement and leave it. Even during their demons of their own design crisis that unfold one after the other in our history, if you just left your money there, it would be better than not. Investors, they want you to panic and sell. They want you to. Investors are now pricing in a 19% chance that the Fed will hold interest rates steady through year's end, according to CME Group, up from below 1% a month ago. All right. Yeah. Here's another problem with the interest rates, okay? Because I'm trying to make this and keep this all connected, all right? To make it very easy for you guys. And then people wonder, well, why are people mad? Why is everyone so mad about inflation, about immigration? Ugh, okay. All right. Give me 1 second here. Give me one old second. Burn it all out here. It's unbelievable. Okay. Redfin reports buying a home costs more than ever, with prices hitting all-time high and mortgage rates rising. I tried to look for a silver lining here, and the silver lining is if you did smartly build or buy a home under Donald Trump, at least your home is appreciating and is meaning it's rising in value. The rest of the economy is very difficult to find value. We're at a point now, because I was supposed to go through that with the GDP number. We're not going to have time to read this report. Under the Biden Obama kind of system, back to the service sector system, the government now is in control of about half of the economy. And government produces nothing, folks. You don't, every damn jobs report they tell, look at how many jobs there are, which get revised down anyway. They're in government and healthcare. Well, government controls healthcare anyway, so you might as well just consider them government jobs at this point. They're in control of the damn sector, even though there may be private companies. But government produces nothing. And by the way, majority control of the economy is called what? Socialism. And actually, because of our little hybrid we got going on right now, it's more like it is fascism. That is what we have. That is officially, I mean, it is fake, faux capitalism. That's really fascism. That's where we're at right now. Or what I used to call hologram capitalism back in my old thesis days. Or, yeah, right. Our Virtuous Republic. Oh my God. Somebody read that book. Yep. The best thing you could have done is take advantage of that period of time where the housing market was coming back under Donald Trump, firing as the four-cylinder firing in the economy anyway, because they really had three firing real strong for a while until housing began to come back, which it did, and then COVID hit us and knocked it all out again. Home builder confidence had hit all-time highs, new residential construction, the pending home sales index, the existing home sales index, the S&P, Schiller, everything was just beautiful. It was beautiful. And if you built, and with interest rates low, you could go run to the bank and say, hey, give me 2.875 to build a house right now, or even 3.1, whatever. I mean, I'll be honest with you. We got ours at 2.9 something, which ultimately made it 3, on the APR. So that was the best thing you could have done. This newer generation, they will have none of that. Because, of course, when interest rates go up the way they do, and the Fed can't lower them, when they go up, it raises the cost to mortgage a home. Monthly, your payment will be higher. The banks will ask for a higher credit score when that happens, right? So the average in America, which I think is what, around 675 or something, they were taking. For a while, things were better. It wasn't the damn financial crisis when people who had no credit or 580 were getting loans. Adjusted, by the way. Flexible. It was decent. You were allowed to try to get a decent cost. Like you could get a house or even build one for the cost of paying rent every month. That's what it was like under the Trump economy. So if you did that, your home prices are high. You may have a hard time selling your home because nobody's going to want to pay inflated prices, but at least you have value there. Anyone who didn't is screwed. Anyone who refinances is screwed. Anyone who's renting is screwed because, of course, someone owns that property somewhere. And by the way, who are buying up all of these places? They're BlackRock, hedge funds. I briefly mentioned REITs the other day on the show, and Laura was like, people don't know what the hell a REIT is. It's a real estate investment trust. It means wealth is going away from the working person, the family unit, the average citizen, and going into people who already have this money. The median home price pierced The median U.S. home price, they messed that up, rose 5.2% year over year this week, and the mortgage rates hit their highest level since November of 2023. Remember, that is the period where we were really having some bad stuff. 22 was a bad year, but then they were like, oh, things are going to get better. Look, it's a better new year. As we go into the election year, everything seems to be turning around. Stick with us. It was all Trump's fault anyway. It took us this long to get out of his COVID disaster. $383,725. That's the 4 weeks ending April 21st, which is up 5.2% from a year earlier. One of the biggest jumps since October of 22, when everything was absolutely bonkers bad. That's according to a new report from Redfin, the technology-powered real estate brokerage. And you do have to take things, by the way, I mentioned some indexes before, the National Association of Realtors, NAR, they are a lobby. So you have to, I mean, look, they're very well trusted data on the street. I'm not trying to make them out like that. I'm just telling you, as a person who's like been around the block, you take things with a grain of salt when you see things like that. Okay. I mean, you just do, or at least I do. And I think it's wise to do that. All right. All right. So, here we go. The average weekly mortgage rate hit 7.1 this week. It's its highest level since November 23, as it became clear the Fed would keep interest rates higher longer than expected. Very well put. The more accurate way to characterize this, certainly not the sugarcoating BS from the Wall Street Journal. High prices and mortgage rates drove the median monthly housing payment to a record $2,843, up 13% year over year. Folks, I don't think people understand how much your mortgage payment goes up. When someone who has a rate at 2.9, 3.1 versus someone who has a rate at 7.1 or higher. And by the way, you're going to do FHA, you're going to pay more. And it's not, the problem is, it's not, people say, well, it was like that, in the 80s, and it was like that in the, we're not there anymore. The economy's not there anymore. A 7.5% interest rate on a home is way harder for today's person to pay, or the average new home buyer to pay, than it was back in the 80s when things were booming. Prices are soaring despite the fact there's more inventory than last year. Under Trump, what our biggest problem was an inventory crunch. So, because things were good, the National Association of Home Builders constantly pumping out their index. You could have read it month after month on PPD, on their website. We covered it month after month. Home builders were like, that's fine. I'll build more. People are going to buy them up, and they're going to buy them up at decent rates, very good rates, and decent prices, which will have a chance to appreciate over time, because someone's home, for the vast majority of Americans in this country, is their most valuable asset. It is most of their net worth. The equity they may or may not have in that home is everything to them. It's everything they have to leverage. Now, under Biden, we had an inventory crunch in the first 2 years, and all of these hedge funders were buying this stuff up. Once banks announced, we're not taking 650, we're not taking 680, and those rates went above 3.3, that was it. That was it for the average person. Sure, if you're some, trying to be nice here, if you're some professional class wonk who's got a good job, maybe it doesn't matter that much to you, but understand this, you're not the majority. That's why neighborhoods look like shit. People don't take good care of things that are not theirs. Renters, you know this. Landlords, if you rent things out, you know this. People take care of things they own, neighborhoods, their house. If they own something, they take better care of it. Neighborhoods and communities look nicer. That's why I think you will see things get run down when you're in positions like this where we're at right now. It will look like neighborhoods are hollowed out, shingles coming off, no power washing, grass isn't mowed, let alone weeds being taken care of in yards. You guys know what I'm talking about. Life gets a little less beautiful. Let me just read this quote so we can move on, because this is Chen Zhao over at Redfin. My advice to sellers is to price your home fairly, even though sellers are getting top dollar at the moment. They should price competitively to attract buyers from the start and avoid having to drop their price as stubbornly high mortgage rates eat into buying budgets. My advice for serious buyers who can afford today's costs. Serious buyers who can afford today's costs is to shop for your dream home and accept that this year is probably not the time to find a dream deal. So you're screwed. Let me just explain to you what that means. Price growth may be cool slightly in the coming months if mortgage rates stay high, or rates might fall slightly, but overall, housing costs are likely to remain elevated for the foreseeable future. Let me just say this, okay? And then we'll bring it back to a different place here. Let me just say this. I'm going to tell you a personal story. I love my house. We built our house, but we're at the point where we've been there 2 years now. And for tax purposes, if I wanted to flip the house, I could and make money. All right. There was a house. My daughter, as you all know, is a competitive dancer. There was a house. The people are in deep trouble. I'm not going to get into their personal situation, but they built this house and it's a monster and they have no way to pay for it. I was willing to sell my house, get a bridge or whatever the hell it's called, and get this house. All right. There's a dance studio in it my daughter could use. There's an area where we can have this. We could have the show. Laura just popped in to say goodbye, but she knows what I'm talking about. Yep. There's a beautiful area where it's high tech. This guy went nuts, but he's in deep trouble. He unfortunately wants the value of his home. If it was like top dollar, he can't pay his mortgage. Listen, I don't want to be sounding like I'm a schmuck or anything, but I love my home. I'm not in a rush to leave. If you want me to buy your home, you're going to have to take a loss, a heavy loss, and I will buy it. But that isn't, listen, I'm not a bad person. That's the way the market works.
That's market.
I'm going to have to get a higher interest loan, and I got to pay more on the mortgage I don't want to pay. So in order for him to do it, he better drop his price significantly. I'm not walking into a deal, a bad deal, period. And Chen Zhao was trying to tell people, if you want your dream home, you better suck it up and understand that you're not going to get a dream deal. All right, let me say goodbye to my girls real quick, and we'll get back to this. All right, I love you. You know what? Listen, you always dance the best when you just have fun. Okay? Knock it out. I love you. I know you'll make me proud either way. Okay? Drive safe. Where's my little Roro? He's got to be right here.
You want him here?
I want right here. I want him right here. I don't care if he talks. I don't care if he talks and gabbles, but I got to be able to see him out of the corner of my eye. All right? All right. Come in here, Roro. Come in here with Daddy, buddy. We can even bring Winston in here. All right, so there it is. I wanted to tell that personal story. So with all this going on, it's election year in the background, and I don't need to go over the CPIs, the PPIs. We all know the economy sucks, okay? We all know that we have some real serious problems. Of course, that's going to translate into a problem, and this is Yahoo Finance, by the way, and this is going to translate into a problem for the guy who is presiding over it, all right? So Biden's been doing this a very, very long time. Okay, folks? He's been doing this Gallup has been up to this a very long time. They know what their benchmarks are for somebody getting reelected or somebody not getting reelected. And at this point right now, Biden's 13th quarter approval is the approval average is the lowest historically. It's 38.7%. Let's read this and compare this to other presidents. And this is going to be, if you're a Republican, I'm telling you right now, this is going to be the only bright spot of the show today. Everything else is going to be kind of grim because I'm going into some other areas. We're going to talk about how bad things are lead to certain things in politics. And then we're going to talk about something that's even a bigger picture problem that I don't know how to reverse. I don't know what to do because our culture is a big part of this problem. And this is an issue. President Joe Biden's average 38.7% job approval during his recently completed 13th quarter in office, which began, of course, on January 20th and ended April 19th. None of the other 9 presidents elected to their first term since Dwight Eisenhower had a 13th quarter average lower than Biden. That includes Trump. That includes Herbert Walker Bush, who lost. Trump, by the way, supposedly lost, even though he wasn't in a bad territory. 46.8%. Obama was lower, 45.9%, and he won. God, these people, these apologists for third world rigging of elections. I'm over these SOBs because this is their fault. You understand what I'm saying? All of this crap that we're talking about that has happened, the people who died holding onto airplanes while we abandoned Afghanistan. All right. And I wasn't a fan of the war in Afghanistan, but there's a right way and a wrong way to leave. The people holding onto the ends of airplanes, the service members who died, 13 service members who died from the bombing. This is all on you. The Meghan McCains, the Ben Dominics, the Eric Ericksons, all these other people that are on the right who played a part and a role in this. This is all on you. Understand you are to blame for this. It's like the rest of them. You're the election deniers. Herbert Walker Bush had a previous low at 41.8% in 92. Donald Trump and Barack Obama, Biden's immediate predecessors in office, they averaged 46.8 and 45.9. Respectfully, at the same point in their presidencies. Jimmy Carter is the only other president with a sub 50% average in his 13th quarter. He, of course, went on to lose. 3 of the 4 prior presidents who had 13th quarter approval averages below 50% lost their reelection bids. Obama was the exception. 4 of the 6 who were reelected, Nixon, Reagan, Clinton, and Bush, they averaged between 51% and 55% during their 13 quarters. Therefore, obviously. Another Dwight Eisenhower had the highest average for a president in this stage of his presidency, 73.2%. From a broader historical perspective, Biden's most recent quarterly average ranks 277th out of 314 presidential quarters in Gallup's records dating back to 1945. That puts him in the bottom 12% of all presidential quarters. And because I know it's 12:41 already. I know when we're supposed to do the 12:45 break. Biden's job approval is showing no signs of improving. All right, we ourselves have had him as low as 37, and then he'll tick back up to 42 or 43 or something like that. But he's been hovering in the high 30s to low 40s for a while. Whether there has been good economic news or bad economic news, whether there has been some positive developments the media lies about and is fabricated or not, whether the world seems like it's on fire and burning or the choirs have been, smothered for the time being. It doesn't seem that Biden is recovering because of a few things. One is, again, the media and all those other schmucks, some of which I mentioned by name, they all lied about who Joe Biden was, and the shine is now off of Joe Biden. That image is gone because that image was never true. The decency argument, the this, the that, right? He was never well liked. Prior couple of generations that came before us as far as presidential, or I would say the electorate for presidential elections, they rejected Joe Biden as not being a suitable character to be president. He's a plagiarist. He's a liar. He's a philanderer. He's all these other things. And he was forced to abandon his prior presidential bids because the country rejected that. Even in hell in 2020, the country was rejecting him until Obama stepped in and threw his weight around and told Democrats to vote for Joe Biden, who he doesn't like, by the way. So I don't see any way that this is really going to improve because you have all of that. On top of all of that, you want this? Okay, I'll hold on to it for you. Yeah, I'll hold it. On top of all of that, everyone thinks he's senile. Let me put that another way. The vast majority of the country is not fooled anymore. They know he is senile. And it takes a staunch partisan to vote for a senile SOB instead of a guy that they know did a better job. It takes a partisan to say you strongly approve of the job a senile idiot who wears the pens at night is doing as president. Because everybody knows he ain't doing anything as president. And that all began to erode on day one. Well, you got me signing. Just sign it. We'll tell you about it later. Pudding. Come on. Take a sip of water here. I'll sign it. When's my pudding going to be here? All right, let's take a quick break. I mean, the approval is what it is. We could come back. I'll come back to it for a little bit after the break if you want. All right, let's do it. I'll come back a hair and we'll talk more about it after we're done. Don't you dare eat that. That is a $110 adapter. Don't you dare. You're going to be in the studio. You got to be a good boy, Winston. He's a good boy. Don't eat those cookies. I got you cookies yourself. I'll get them for you if you need them. I got your own baked cookies. All right, look, be prepared. With all this we're talking about, what a friggin' disaster. By the way, there's the new kit. We're going to talk about something else today, but it's the same thing. You can go to it. Let me tell you a real quick story before we get into the conversation about this. My father, like a lot of other people, that are up in age, it's like the doctor tells you to do something, you do it, He's got a friend and neighbor, or let me say, did have a friend and neighbor, that they would all walk over to each other's house, have a cup of tea or coffee or whatever time of day it was. It's varied. And shoot the you-know-what. Like people in their golden years do. Go out and do something together. Guy goes, look, Rich, I'm going to run to Publix and I'll be back. And I got to run to the doctor. I got to run to Publix and I'll be back. Well, stay away from him. Winston's a weenie, by the way. Sometimes he sounds like you like killing him. You're not. Anyway, the guy literally was getting changed after coming back from the shot and Publix. And it was like, let me get changed and then come on over and I'll call you, come on over. An hour goes by, 2 hours goes by, 2.5 hours. My dad's like, what the hell's going on? Walks over to the guy, knocks on the door. He's not answering, but we clearly know he's there. Anyway, my father finds him dead, sitting down, getting dressed. That's it. Bang. Ever since then, a whole group of people, everybody, so many people say they just don't feel right after this. I mean, this is a really important conversation. And eventually, thanks to that court ruling, maybe it's like given us a little bit of more leeway to talk about this stuff. But I can't tell you how much I hear from people who say, I did what I was told to do. I did the right thing. And now I feel like I may have I made an irreversible mistake. That's why I always write the first question out of my mouth. Did you get the vax? Either because you were coerced to keep your job, maybe, like Don's wife, and she didn't, she bounced, or because you thought that you were doing the right thing at the time. And now, are you nervous about the obviously many health implications that are now documented as being associated with this vax? You're not alone. Fortunately, there is help. Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Harvey Reish, and the chief medical board at the wellness company have formulated an unmatched supplement that may help with all of these issues. You guys have heard me talk about the wellness company and their emergency kit for a while now. Love it. Laura and I love it. You better have two. Everyone at least better have one, which you can also get at this link right here. But by God, you got to have, I like the fact that I have two. And this product is one that I can honestly say I also believe that everyone, vaxxed or not, really should be taking. But this is what I tell people when I get this question, which I get a lot now. Revolutionary over-the-counter spike support formula is the gold standard for combating spike protein, which is the substance at the root of almost all of the problems related to the COVID-19 vaccine. The wellness vaccines, I should say plurally. The wellness company's doctors hear from people like the one I just mentioned, my own story, and like you every single day, saying that they've never felt the same since being vaxxed. So, what can you do to get back to feeling like you used to? With the wellness company's spike support formula, you've got a daily supplement that to help you get back to that feeling, the feeling your best. Reclaim your health. Go to twc.health/TPP. Use that code TPP. Save yourself 10% and get free shipping. Again, screen on this you're looking at right now. The link is in the description for it. twc.health/TPP. All right. And that'll knock that off for you. And by the way, like while you're at it, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the Contagion emergency kit is essentially an upgrade from the first one, which is another reason why Laura and I really wanted to get it like immediately, which we did. All right. I popped that off. Let's go back to Biden's approval real quick. Let's do that real quick. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. Something else I want to go over. There are videos I want to watch. I'll try to get to some questions. I know it's Q&A Friday. Typically that's what we do. Laura's like been real ticked. She misses, I mean, frankly, she just misses you guys. Misses being in the chat and engaging with you guys. It's really that simple. That's what it is. And I told her, that whatever it is that you feel like you need to have done, I will get it for you to make your life easier. That's what you need. And I'm sure you got, I'm sure on locals too, you guys especially. I mean, it's different. Let me put it that way. It's different without her. And it's easier. But the season doesn't last forever. So even if we can't improve the situation, don't worry. She'll be back regardless. All right. So this is Biden. This is where he started out. Unlike Donald Trump, who was unlike every other president, Biden got a honeymoon. What is a honeymoon? A presidential honeymoon is when a president is first the president-elect, but then gets sworn into office and has what we used to refer to as the 100 days, where he had 100 days to get his agenda done. After that, it was very difficult. He expended the political capital, and that was all. You're not going to get as much as you're going to get from Congress. During that 100-day mark, you're going to get as much as you can expect to get. That was not true with Trump. It wasn't true with Obama either, because he friggin' hated the job. He didn't do the job. They got Obamacare through. They did that instead of other things. They got the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, which was a disaster and a disaster for our economy, but also a disaster for our budget. And then he gave up. And Joe Biden would walk back and forth from the executive building, to Capitol Hill and try to talk to his old friends about what the president wanted. But Obama let me put it this way. He was no drama Obama, which is a lot appreciated by a lot of people. But if you don't know what the deal is behind the scenes, you might be missing this. He was an awful president. He was awful at the job of being president. Things that make you an effective leader and person, he hated it. He thought it was mundane. He liked the palace intrigue stuff. It was just awful. So the relationship between the executive building and Capitol Hill completely broke down under Barack Obama. Trump reinstated it. It got awful when Democrats took the House of Representatives, but they still at least tried to return to some degree of normalcy. There was more meetings at the White House with lawmakers that resembled what it used to be before the Obama era, which really weren't meetings. They included inviting John Boehner to the White House and bribing him with expensive port to get what he wanted, to end shutdowns, to talk about Ted Cruz behind his back, a whole bunch of other stuff. Trump did things differently. He did things like he remembered presidents doing. I will invite the leaders of both parties and we will sit down and we will hammer this out. Unfortunately, Democrats squandered that opportunity and we didn't get things like prescription drug reform and things like that we would have been able to get. Elijah Cummings, the late Elijah Cummings, was super happy with it. He wanted to do it. And Nancy Pelosi put the kibosh on it because they didn't want Trump to get a win. Same thing with his infrastructure bill, which was widely popular. 78% of the country, when we polled it, supported it. And it got killed by Nancy Pelosi and others because they didn't want Trump to get a win, another win. They definitely didn't want to get him a bipartisan win. By the way, great example of why that's such a problem with the government sector, or I would say the public sector being so much of as a share of the overall economy. Infrastructure is a great example. What you're not told by the media and Democrats when they propose these bills is that most U.S. infrastructure is privately owned as of now. Anyway, the government is trying to and has been sucking it up for a while, but the infrastructure bill that they put forward and typically have put forward in recent years is not realistic because the government doesn't control all of this stuff. Bridges, dams, a lot of them are privately owned. That's why Trump's infrastructure bill was the better bill. It was not even close. All right, anyway, Biden got that honeymoon. Trump did not get that honeymoon. He still had a bump, but he did not get it. His inauguration speech was, quote, Hitlerian, unquote. Divisive. It's us versus them is divisive, I guess, if you're part of the them. But he was talking to the American people. Too long, a small group of wealthy people have screwed you over. Jeez. I remember not that long ago when you would have thought the Democratic Party would have cheered on something like that. But unfortunately, they're the small group of wealthy people now. Anyway, even with that honeymoon, it became very clear very early that Biden was not going to be successful at closing down the virus, not the economy. It consisted longer than expected, as did the mask crazy, mask culture, which, by the way, persists to this day in some areas of the country. And you know who I'm talking about. I still see women with diapers on their face. I still see beta boys, men, so-called men, with diapers on their face. Go take a flight. You don't even have to. Go to Publix. Go to Harris Teeter. Go to the wherever it is by you. The Meijer, whatever. And you will see, and you can point them out. Like demographically, you can spot them a mile away. So what does Biden do here? During the 13th quarter, and I thought this was interesting, it's why I came back to it. The war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza continued, as did elevated levels of illegal crossings at the U.S. southern border. In February, a bipartisan immigration reform bill negotiated in the Senate failed to pass because it didn't do damn thing to fix the crisis. Let's cut the shit, man. All right, Lorraine here. Let's cut the shit. That didn't do anything to fix the crisis, and they know it. It did, however, solidify the Democratic plan to basically replace all of you who they don't want to hear, moaning anymore. Sorry, I got to be careful. My son just popped up next to me. And while macroeconomic indicators, particularly job growth, remain positive, yeah, okay. You want to rewrite this after today, after yesterday? Oops, that's right. You just put this out. I kid you not, folks. They just wrote this after. Macroeconomic indicators don't look that good because they keep getting revised down. It would have been more accurate to say, even though and while initially reported macroeconomic indicators, particularly job growth, appear positive. That would have been the accurate way to write that sentence. The stock market, which hit record highs during the quarter, has faltered in recent weeks. So you will see, though, that we're not talking that much of a difference. I think that for the most part, we hear a lot about how, Arabs could sit out the election and protest over what's going on, and Biden is caving to them for that. The trade-off may be worse, is my point. So in order to get back some of his left flank, he may trade off some others that he really cannot afford to lose, because you're not seeing that big of a difference in those quarters. We'll see. Maybe next quarter, there will be more of a period where they'll be able to feel that, and there'll be more sentiment within those results. But as of right now, it seems to me that the situation with Israel and Hamas, as well as the situation in Eastern Europe, is just adding to the, I would say it's confirming the views that people have about Biden being a bad foreign policy president. That things are just like running amok and on fire in the world. What do you need, little buddy? You got to stay in here with daddy. You got to stay in here with daddy. What do you need? I'll get it for you. Just tell me. How about you want some drink? You want some juice? Want some more juice? Want a sip of your juice? No? How about a bun? You want your dog? Want your dog? No? Okay. Getting his hot dogs. Especially the bun. You got to make him eat the dog because he really loves the bun. It's like, bro, it's bread. All right? You need meat. So we're not really seeing that big of a difference, and that's what I wanted to point out. Since they brought it up, it was a great way to pivot now to this. With all of this going on, right? You have all these endless MSNBC panels, CNN panels, these stupid talking heads, unbelievable nonsense about, they just can't seem to understand why Americans are this mad. It's like, it's your fault. You're too dumb to understand how good things are. It's really remarkable. And yet, that's why when this hit yesterday, it dropped like a bomb with even Democrats, a large share. Well, let's get into it. Americans have long time, and Gallup, speaking of Gallup, they have been studying this for a long time. Americans are very generous, but not only do they oppose illegal immigration, they have long wanted either a pause or a reduction on immigration levels that are legal. Legal. All right. So I do hear that they're gonna not have to, they're just not getting an answer. Anyway, so exclusive poll, America warms to mass deportations. Share of Americans who say they support mass deportations of undocumented migrants. All right. The general public now, straight up majority. Are you ready? 51%. Race, we're white, 56%. Latinos now up to 45%. Black Americans, 40%. Of course, Republicans lead the way at 68%. Independents at 46%. Democrats at 42%. 42%. I try to explain this to a lot of people. The media is very good at corralling Democrats, but there is still a large chunk of Democrats who do side with not only the general public, but Republicans, the general Republican position on a lot of these issues. Another one, by the way, is several when it comes to election integrity. They don't understand why their party advocates against voter ID. When we polled about fingerprint verification for absentee ballot voting, Democrats were overwhelmingly in favor for it. Like, you put your finger on your iPhone, you put your finger on your keyboard to get the computer to unlock, to get the iPhone to unlock. What the hell is the difference? What is the problem with ensuring that the person who's casting that mail-in ballot is who they're saying they are? What is the problem with ensuring that the vote is fair? There's still, even though many Democrats just want to win no matter what, as in Georgia, huge chunk of Democrats told us they thought Joe Biden stole the state of Georgia, but they didn't care because they got the W. But they still supported the policy proposals that Republicans are putting forward. So Governor Kemp, it was This is him and the legislature. So cowardly with how he did those reforms because they would have supported that. There wouldn't have been any pushback outside of the media and the usual suspects. Stay in here, dude. Hey, stay in here. Stay here with daddy. All right, by generation, the boomers, 60%, Gen X, 53%, millennials, 48%, Gen Z, 35%. Half of Americans, again, including 42% of Democrats, say they'd support the mass deportations of undocumented immigrants, according to a new Axios Vibe survey by the Harris poll. And 30% of Democrats, as well as 46% of Republicans, now say they'd end birthright citizenship, something guaranteed under the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. That's not true. That's technically not true, or at least not in the way that the left puts it out. We've had these conversations with Barnes in the past. I'm not going to get into it. Why it matters. Americans are open to former President Trump's harshest, they said. It's harsh to you, Mediaite. And I don't mean the website. I'm well aware this is Axios. That's what I refer to these media types. They're Mediaites. Nobody thinks it's harsh because it's not harsh. Eisenhower, who we look back on, very favorable. And left constantly cites him every time the Republicans are bitching about taxes. Eisenhower, mass deported millions. Hell, your favorite president out there, left-wingers, FDR, put Asians in camps. Yeah, like concentration camps. So don't give me that crap about how mean it's going to be when we deport people. Shouldn't have came your ass here in the first place. I dare you to try to cross the border into Nicaragua. I dare you to try to cross the border into Colombia. I friggin' dare you. You will be shot on sight. Americans are open to his harshest policy. No, they are 100% by majority supporting it. I don't mean 100% majority. I mean, you know what I'm saying. It is a majority that supports it. And there's a reason why I went this way after all the economic stuff, because they act like, and I was watching this thing on right-wing extremism, Showtime, and Bill Clinton, they were interviewing a whole bunch of people. And they, at least to their credit, went back to like before Ruby Ridge, then Waco, and then Timothy McVeigh. And out of everybody, the only one I heard who said something reasonable was Bill Clinton. Like, I wonder if I had met Timothy McVeigh, if I had known him, if he had, because there were so many normal people who were friends. Like, I understood where he was coming from. His grandfather, who he adored, his father, that plant they worked at that built their family, destroyed, right? He went over the war for the liberation of Kuwait. Totally pointless. Why? Because Kuwait wanted to drill diagonally and steal Saddam Hussein's oil, because that's what they were doing. That's why the war started. There were no babies getting thrown out of incubators. Another lie. Our very virtuous intelligence community told us all to do something stupid, and that's what we did. And unfortunately, we sent young men like Timothy McVeigh over to do those ugly, dirty things. And then he comes back and he finds a country who doesn't give a rat's ass about him. They're mass importing illegals because, the rich political class want people to fold their laundry. They eventually want votes. So they cast guys like him, his granddad, and him away. My point is, even Bill Clinton said, while what he did is wrong, you can't ignore the fact he did it. And also, Bill Clinton addressed Waco, and he flat out said the FBI lied. He told Janet Reno, I would give Janet Reno the decision. It's ultimately her decision. I will support it either way. But I got to tell you, what we did in Arkansas when we were dealing with these groups, we did it a different way. We went a different way, and it worked better for us. The FBI then lied to Janet Reno and said that he was in there sexually abusing girls, physically abusing little girls at that moment. Like he might kill the girls. He might force them to commit suicide. All this. I mean, they were full of shit. And that's when Janet Reno gave the thumbs up. Bill Clinton said you cannot ignore, and he's right, you cannot ignore that those grievances are real. So they're real and they're valid. So, despite the fact he did something that horrible, so I'm listening. All these people who sitting around with these like talking points, like about you heard Jen Psaki during the Virginia election. Look at this, as if Virginia's a border state or something. I don't think while I recognize that hatred grows in times of economic despair, this has nothing to do with hatred. This has to do with you betraying everyone. As citizens, they are supposed to be sovereign. They are supposed to be the ones that you're caring about their welfare, their well-being, their ability to prosper. They're the ones you're in a freaking social contract with. Not fake refugees from El Salvador who are coming here to run drugs, create murderous gangs, and destroy neighborhoods. Not every neighborhood can do something like what Loudoun County did, which is essentially wall themselves off from the gangs. The rest of us have to live with it. So not only is the anger understandable, it's valid. It's righteous. It's a just anger. And they're surprised over it. Harsh. You know what's harsh? Hollowing out somebody's neighborhood. You know what's harsh? Allowing someone's neighborhood to be invaded when they don't even have enough resources for their own. That's harsh. Biden is keen aware that this crisis threatens his reelection, and he sought to flip the script by accusing Trump of sabotaging Congress's most conservative bipartisan immigration bill in decades. If you call that if that's conservative, then again, that goes to what I was saying in the beginning of the show, addressing how people are saying I'm being too much of a doomsdayer. Look at the dichotomy here. If that's a conservative bill, you're losing. You're losing and you're on your way to defeat. That is nowhere near conservative, that bill. And the fact that it's even being characterized as the most conservative in decades goes to show you just how much you're losing. First of all, we shouldn't be talking about this at all because Republicans should have done this when Donald Trump was president. But instead, they didn't. They prioritized their big donors. They prioritized the regulatory. Whoa, that looked fun, but don't do it again. They prioritize the regulatory industry. They put their donors first. They put you last. When it comes to who's getting the blame, though, it's Biden. Biden has failed to shift the narrative. 32% of respondents say his administration is most responsible, outranking any other political or structural factor. And if you just say, who is to blame, Biden and the Democrats or Trump and Republicans, you'll get an even bigger margin. And then if you were to even separate it out even more, because Republicans actually hurt Donald Trump when you ask that. Because there are people who rightfully say, actually, Republicans, the party, is still to blame. Because they didn't even back their own damn president when he wanted to fix this. You separate Trump from Republicans, he does even better. I know, we've done it before. I think they're just sending a message to politicians, get this under control. Mark Penn, the chairman of the Harris poll, and by the way, a former pollster to President Clinton, said, calling it a warning to Biden that, quotes, efforts to shift responsibility for the issue to Trump are not going to work. What time is it? 1:12. Oh my goodness, don't do that. Hey. Don't rip all that apart. You can have that little piece, okay? That stuff's expensive. You don't know what expensive, though, means, so just listen to Daddy. He's 4. What's expensive, Daddy? You know? I mean, you don't know. He has no clue. He has absolutely no clue. Yeah, bottom line here. You know the deal. You get it. Marpen talks about some of these other issues. Let's get into them. When asked to identify their greatest concerns around illegal immigration, most Americans frequently cited, and here we go. This is another thing. Well, I can't believe the crime. Increased crime rates, drugs, and violence. You can't say anything about the drugs. That is, you can't fudge statistics enough to dispute that. However, they do try to fudge statistics about how much immigrants create illegal immigrants commit crimes versus the domestic population. And they do. They play all sorts of games. We have incomplete data because many blue states won't even participate. So they get to make bold claims about domestic violence being more, and that's not true. But here's the kicker anyway. Here's why that argument never works anyway. It doesn't matter. That should never have happened. Right? Remember Kate from Kate's Law? Should never have happened. To Americans, it really doesn't matter if we're talking about one crime. Lincoln. Remember? Do we have that clip? I don't think so. Abraham Lincoln, Joe? I don't think we have that clip still. Yeah, we don't. Speaking of clips, I got a ton, so I got to shut up here soon. But Americans largely say it should never have happened to begin with because they should not have been here. No, no. You'll get hurt on that. That's sisters. Leave it alone. Just do your thing here. Hey, hold on, guys. Let me just straighten this out. Hey, buddy, don't mess with that stuff. That's Daddy's stuff. Just leave it, okay? You want to play with Daddy's coat? You want to wear Daddy's coat? Yeah. Watch how cozy it is. You want to see this? Look at this. Whoa! Watch your thing in Daddy's coat and shut up. Okay? Isn't that cozy, dude? Look how cozy that is. Here. You're welcome. It's like a blanket. I love that coat. That's Daddy's gotta go outside and do some work coat. That's Daddy's Christmas light coat. It's so cold out there. How do you think Daddy goes up on the boom? It's because we get a lot of wind here by the river. The river cuts in from the Atlantic. It's right there. And man, we get wind. Putting up Christmas decorations, you better have a heavy kind of Carhartt-like coat or something. And that's not Carhartt. That's something else. I can't remember. But man, it's warm. It's like a blanket. Anyway, so that's why that doesn't work. Then the additional cost to taxpayers. You're a burden on the social safety net. You're a burden on social services. We're broke. We're freaking broke. We're bankrupt. Basically bankrupt. Not basically, just the trigger hasn't been pulled yet. We're broke. We don't have the money to spend on anyone else. What about the homeless veterans? What about my suffering husband who hasn't been able to find work? What about my brother who hasn't been able to get a job in carpentry because everyone's doing it for $6 an hour instead, who's not supposed to be here? We don't have the money for them. And then, of course, thirdly, which is the often ignored threat and risk of terrorism and the damage that can be done to our national security. What on earth would be the motivation for 21,000 Chinese nationals in a month to illegally cross the U.S. southern border? Why on earth would they do that, since we have some of the most favorable policies to China when it comes to getting into this country? Why would you do it? There is no good reason for it. You're up to something. 64% wrongly believe immigrants receive more in welfare and benefits than they pay in taxes. Another, by the way, skewed statistic. I do understand where they're getting that math from. I know it. I just don't think it's complete. You can't make that argument. 50, because they pay taxes a different way. Really? They cut the check I just cut a couple weeks ago so they can have these programs that I'm not eligible for? Up yours, dude. I got kids to insure. I got a family to pay for and look after. They're not my priority at all. And that's mean? Tough shit. The vast majority of Americans wrongly agree with me. 56% wrongly believe illegal immigration is linked to spiking U.S. crime rates. Again, that is a false statement. False, 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 false. We should do a whole show on this. We could do a whole show on this. It's like the Washington Post changing their definition of a mass shooting just so they could pretend like mass shootings are on the rise. Mass shootings have been a plague since your Cultural Revolution. That's just a reality. Since you began to neuter young men and they don't know where the place is in the world and they're growing up in broken homes and they need to feel like they're going to be remembered for doing something. Deeply, deeply led astray kids who needed help. That's the sad thing. Really is. Really is. All right. Let's see what else. Should we continue with this or do I have basically enough here? I mean, yeah, we got enough here. I gotta move into one of the worst statistics, and then we'll get into the videos here. All right, so bear with me with the boring reads for a second. This isn't that big, but all of what we are talking about is going on beyond a backdrop of something that is not like economic policy. It's getting difficult to reverse. We're in deep, deep trouble. If it wasn't, by the way, for Hispanic fertility rates from those who came in illegally, many of which over the last 4 decades, there would be no growth in the United States right now. So we have a major problem with being able to replace ourselves with our culture. So our culture continues, our ideas continues, I continue, our values continue, our nation continues. It will not continue like this. We are a dying nation. I preface this one with all the economic stuff because when you put it all together, it is, and I'm sorry if you guys think this is doom and gloom because that's where we are and people better wake the F up or else we're done. There is a sickness in our culture. We would rather, or many of us would, it's not right to say everyone, but many of us would rather, there's no nice way to put this, kill babies instead of raise babies so our breasts don't sag. Many of us would rather kill babies instead of raise babies so we can go out and work in the workforce and chase that thing so I don't need no man. Go watch the Barbie movie, make fun of Ryan Gosling, and to hell with the very, very important role of procreation. Like, when did it become trivial? When did the job and the role of ensuring the preservation of our nation and our species, when did that become trivial? When did that become insulting? It's like the highest honor. You're literally in charge of making sure that we are going to exist. And yet now, it's uncool or something. Telling you, I got a friend. I think she's 43 because she was always a little bit older than me, even though we were like, I was saying we were super tight. It's the only girl friend I ever had. I always used to say girls, men and women cannot be friends, at least not at that age. Can't happen. It's not true. Don't, when someone tells you, when your girlfriend or your boyfriend tells you, oh, we're just friends, they're full of shit. Don't believe them. At least at that age. I always used to be like that. I did. And that was always my experience. I had a difficult time making a friend who was a girl. It always like wanted to be something else, or they did, or if I was being honest with myself, maybe I did, back and forth. It just was BS. But I had this one who changed my mind. We just shared so much similarities in our stories. Anyway, that those paths they diverged at one point. She ended up going the career, I am woman, hear me roar. I'm going to be a modern day woman. very liberal. Both of us, socially, were liberal, but she was very liberal, basically, in everything. If you saw her parents, you'd know why. If I said one of them, you may even know them, especially if you're from one of our areas, where the area was where I grew up, because there's something, a very visible marker that is a staple of that area, and that is her dad. In any event, she went a very different way. I got out of the army and I decided I'm going to stop being a schmuck, be good to Laura, and I'm going to marry her. And we're building a life. Now we're at the middle of our age. I have a family. I have a home. I have kids that love me, and I was married once. She's been married multiple times. She never had kids. She's got a career, good career, but is friggin' miserable. Now her biology, and by the way, she loves Donald Trump, was a liberal to the core, and she loves Donald Trump, hates Democrats to death now, basically blames them for her miserable childhood. And she's right. I mean, the counterculture in the 60s is the reason why so many of us grew up effed up the way we did. So all of this happened over time. The divorce rates skyrocketed over time. Fertility rates went down over time. And it's not something that's easily recoverable. We just had a census in 2020. We know there would have been no growth if it was just us. The general fertility rate let me just put it this way before I read that. The female gender, the female of the majority race in this country, has abortions not for economic reasons, but for reasons of convenience. And they are the second highest aborting group in the country. Oh, I mean abortion at convenience. I mean, oops, I had a bad Friday. A couple of weeks later, they find out, better get rid of this one. I can't have a baby. I got plans for my life. I'm going to be a NASA engineer or something. Got to get rid of this one. I look too good. I don't want my body to go crazy. Got to get rid of this one. Here's a little secret for you anyway, ladies. Your hips widen when you're pregnant, and men find that attractive. So that I never even understood that one. But we know those are the reasons because there are statistics. And again, those statistics would be even worse if blue states would actually participate in the surveillance monitoring system. They don't, because they don't want the country to know just how much of a $1 billion industry the abortion industry is. So they keep that off. They keep that out of your sight. I may have to help him go into the bathroom, but just bear with me. Call me if you need me, okay? Roro, call me if you need me, all right? He's good, but sometimes he needs some. Anyway, so now down to and then the highest aborting group in racial group in this country, the left has really poisoned their minds, but those are still mostly due to economic reasons, which ties hand in hand with what we were talking about in the first hour. Many of these women would love to have these babies, but they cannot. They are not financially able to. And unfortunately, our society does not push adoption, and there are not enough adoption resources in this country. And that's sad, but that's where we're at. So there's like so many things not from a federal government centered. So without a federal government centered solution, there are things that we need to address on many, many different levels. Of course, the federal government can act as a support with those things, but the fact that there isn't enough. I remember in Florida many years ago, Gates' father, their royalty in Florida, in case you don't know, Senate president at the time, passing a law that basically said if you're a state employee, we're gonna prevent you from jumping through XYZ hoops because you've already been vetted by the state, and we'll give you more money to be able if you foster, and even better if you adopt. It was a great bill. It was wildly successful. I don't know why we don't have it. The goal was don't have an abortion. We have the resources for you to help you. But that is not the common practice in this country, and it's showing. And we're paying with it literally with our lives, our existence. We're paying for it with the continuance of our nation and our culture and our being, our existence, who we are. General fertility rate in the United States decreased by 3% from 2022, reaching a historic low. So already was a low. This marks the second consecutive year of decline, but following a brief 1% increase from 2020 to 21. I can't imagine why. Maybe tone from the top matters. Maybe if you have a president who says don't kill babies, it matters. Coupled with, for instance, COVID, that had to have some impact on it. But I got to look that up. I can't believe I didn't think of that until now. Was Planned Parenthood a essential service? Somebody look that up and see. I wonder. And this is a testament to how long it can take to fix this stuff. From 2014 to 2020, the rate consistently decreased by 2% annually. This is a bigger decrease, as if we could afford it. These statistics and others from provisional 2023 birth data were released by the CDC's National Center for Health Statistics, the NCHS. The new report, which is called Birth Provisional Data for 2023, analyzes data from more than 99% of birth certificates issued during that year. The report shows a 2% decline from 2022, with 3,591,328 births recorded in 2023. That sounds like a lot, but for a nation of 330 million people, or now 340, what am I talking about? 340 plus million people, it's not. Other findings in the report are as follows. 2023 birth rates declined for women ages 20 to 39 years, were unchanged for females aged 10 to 14 and 40 to 49. The birth rate for teenagers aged 15 to 19 was down in 2023 to 13.2 births per 1,000 women, while the birth rate for women ages 20 to 24, 55.4, reached a new low. So here we have women either giving birth way too young or being in the age where you're supposed to be building a family, getting married, getting a job, getting married, building a family. That is the correct order. They're not having babies. They got other things to do. Don't you understand? They got lives to lead. Whoop, whoop. Women out Wednesday night. Women Wednesday, baby. The cesarean delivery rate increased for the fourth year in a row to 32.4% in 2023. The low risk cesarean delivery rate increased to 26.6%. The preterm birth rate was essentially unchanged at 10.4%. Those are preemies. This is a major problem, and it's not the only Western country that has this problem. We are declining. We don't have a ton of time to reverse this. There has been time in history when you can reverse it. It has happened. But this is this is being fueled by like a cultural rot, and I'm not sure how we fix this. I'm not sure how we fix this. Not easily anyway. It cannot be fixed easily. It cannot be fixed just simply by naturally in talking about it. We have things within our society that promotes low fertility rate. And for many, many years, a lot of the politicians, both on the right and the left, would essentially just say, so what? So what? We're going to be all right. It looks like a video I was going to show you has been removed from Twitter. What a surprise. Probably the initial person who wanted to do it did not want it up there anymore. Oh, never mind. Here's another version of it. Looks like they put it down. But that one was to Newsmax. This one now seems to be from Fox News. Yeah. So who I'm going to show you is the head of Steam Fitters Local 638 in New York City. His His name is Bob Bartels. And Sean Parnell and I had talked about it briefly on his show on Wednesday. Thursday. Sorry. Normally we do Wednesdays, but we had to move Savage Wednesday to Savage Thursday this week. So bear with me so I can figure out a different way to get you this video. Here we go. Hopefully there's no damn ad before this one, but I don't. Honestly, I don't know. It doesn't want to expand, which I needed to expand in order for it to play correctly for you. Let me see if I refresh it. Maybe it'll work. Otherwise, it's going to be very small, and who the hell wants that? I could, though, try. I could try to... You know what? Give me 1 second, because I really think this is going to tie it all in, and then we can move on to the oral arguments that were heard before the Supreme Court that Trump's team had brought, basically saying to... Is the Newsmax one here or no? So there's a couple. We can do a couple here. There are a couple. I'm going to do the street interview, which is very quick. And then we will do the, I guess, Fox News, because I'm not finding that Newsmax version anymore, which that was the one I wanted. Then we can move on to oral arguments. All right. All right, let's do it. All right. So, cut one. Go.
We are basically Democrats, all of us. And after what's happened the last 4 years in this country, Democrats are basically pushing everybody to the other side. We're a very patriotic group, and we love our country, and we want the best for America. We are tired of immigration. We're tired of our tax dollars going to immigration. We're tired of the crime. We need to put a handle on things in this country and bring it back to how it should be.
Listen, you're not going to convince that guy who has lived in NYC, has worked in NYC for many, many years. You're not going to convince this guy with your BS statistics that this isn't a significant problem now in the state of New York. You're just not going to tell him that the Washington Post tracks this and you're wrong. They don't care. They don't believe you. They know what they see with their own eyes. Let me play this clip with Brian Kilmeade, and then I really wanted the other damn clip. It was like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It was longer. But man, more was said. Let's hope he says about and conveys the message that he conveyed on the other network. But that street interview is good too. It's going to act as a supplement for us. Okay. I have a feeling because Brian's an idiot. All right. And we'll see how it goes.
It was great to see the president coming and engaging with the blue collar worker of New York City. We basically built New York. The union movement has made the middle class. And we are very patriotic union, and we are pro-America. So my members right now, I put out a poll in my union. President Trump is leading Joe Biden 3-1 on my presidential poll out of my 9,000 members right now.
Yeah, okay. There it is. I didn't want to just make this statement because I didn't see the Kilmeade interview. I didn't want to just make this statement without him saying it to back it up. But oftentimes, and I know because union members have hired, unions have hired us before to conduct what is essentially a straw poll of their union, right? They have hired us before to take votes to see whether or not the union would approve something or move in a direction. And they have certainly hired us to do political polling. So this can be done so union leaders can see transparently that it was done correctly, that it was done soundly and accurately. Once upon a time, we were one of the few who had really good technology to be able to do that. Others now have it as well, but we still do it. We still would do it. That is a big friggin' lead. Okay. That is a big, big lead. And there's another clip. Do we have that one queued up? I do. And it talks to this idea that the Siena College poll is probably right. There are a lot of states that are typically not that close because there are huge contingencies of working class, but they are union voters, and the Democratic Party up until now still had a very strong grab on them, a very strong grip on them. All right. And now that is ending. And for those of us looking at New Jersey, Biden's only up by 6 or 7. New York, Biden's only up by 9-11. The national polls where Trump is leading. You can't lead as a Republican. unless you're doing something like this. So it's confirm that, and you have to change the map with the demographics. Hispanics, you got to do better with Hispanics, and that's the only way. You're not going to max the white vote to 60 something percent anymore. Like this idea they're going to get 65%. It's not going to happen. There are too many white educated liberals who don't agree with this guy. All right. They don't agree with the people the people going out to the restaurants in New York City don't agree with the people who literally built New York City. All right. And what is being done to Donald Trump in their city, they're not going to appreciate this. All while the economy screws them, illegal immigration screws them. One of my favorite historic hotels has been turned in New York City, has been turned into an immigrant flop house. That's what it is. Squat house is a better way to put it. And basically a government endorsed squat house. History down the tube. Because they don't give a damn about it. They're destroying it. Very, very tragic. But the Waldorf is doing just fine, right? Moving on.
We are very tired of the situation with groceries, inflation, gas prices, illegal immigration, crime. We're living it every day in New York City.
So is there pressure from union heads to vote a certain way?
Well, yeah, I'm probably going to get a lot of phone calls after this interview. But like I've told other people, I don't work for my international union. I work for my members. I represent my members. And I wish every politician that was elected to any office would remember they work for their constituents that vote for them. They don't work for themselves.
Wow. And let's be honest. Let's face it. That has been a problem when it comes to unions for a long time now. Has it not? Has it not been a problem that shut up. Has it not been a problem that these union members appear to not care about their own unions' opinions, the members of their unions? In 2016, Donald Trump did exceedingly well with especially private sector unions. And it was one of Hillary Clinton's downfalls. They didn't see, well, even if those who did see it coming, they didn't acknowledge it. They refused to take it seriously, and it was too late. Then in 2020, and I've said this many times, and I'm going to say it again, in 2020, basically they put the screws to them, public and private. And they said, you're not going to do this again, or we're going to hurt you. So a lot of these members went back to the fold. Now we can see it in the polling clear as day. That's one of the reasons as well for Joe Biden struggling the way he is struggling, especially in states, not just battleground states like Michigan, where they play a huge role still, but in states like New York, where unions over the last 50, 100 years, even 100, 20, what are we in 2024? 50 for sure. Unions over the last 50 years have gotten much more educated because government sector unions and other what used to be really supervisory roles that weren't qualified to be unions, and especially in the private sector, which even Roosevelt opposed, by the way, they've gotten much more educated professional class kind of people filling up their ranks. So you may have noticed everyone was not white over there. There was a black guy nodding his head. There was an Asian guy not standing right behind him on your right, his left, nodding in approval. I don't know if you saw the clip. I'm sure you have by now, but it's 6:30 in the morning. These guys are not accustomed, okay, to going at 6:30 in the morning to like a street rally. They're getting ready to go to do their work. They're taking the time. They got their Danish, or they got their pork roll, egg and cheese on a Kaiser roll. Oh my God, I miss them from there. And their coffee. They're shooting the you-know-what about the game. For them to drop everything and show up in force the way that they showed up for Trump, and him to walk through like he is a celebrity, but for him to walk through the crowd like he's a rock star, George W. Bush, by the way, tried to do this in 2004. He believed he could win over guys like that, unions like that, and he got a very cold reception. He said, my approval rating is so damn high. We should go after them. I think we can even take New Jersey. We should be able to make New York much closer after what happened on 9/11. He got a very cold reception, and he lost both states, of course. And they're a lot easier to carry back then than they are now, by the way. They're much harder to, like, New Jersey is much harder for a Republican to carry now than it was back then. Ditto New York. Ditto. Now that's theoretically, that on paper, given what we know about the coalitions of each party. But Trump is changing that. And Biden himself is playing a role in changing that, being so bad. All right. So speaking of New York, all right, I'm going to play this clip from Larry Kudlow, of course, well, first of all, he was a financial anchor, financial news pundit, anchor, analyst, whatever you want to talk about. And then he became a member of Trump's economic team. Right? And now that he's out of the Trump White House, he's back where he was before. Kellyanne Conway, of course, the wife of Fat George Conway, who is a Trump hater and a slob of a man and a human being. I don't know how in the hell he married somebody like Kellyanne, and who, by the way, did not get the credit she deserved. If this was a liberal, if a female campaign manager ran the winning presidential campaign for the first time for a female, it would have been celebrated and lauded all over. There would probably be some bust or statue or memorial or something in some corner of the political world that honored her for doing it. Instead, Kellyanne Conway got no recognition, no leader as a for young girls, or a role model being put up for young girls. Meanwhile, Get on Your Knees Kamala is on Nickelodeon every friggin' day. I mean, it's unbelievable. But her, nope, because she helped get Donald Trump elected. So the fact that she's the first successful female presidential campaign manager just got washed away, and that's actually really sad. If you're a woman, you should be pissed. I would be. Can't speak for you, but I'm just saying I personally would be. All right. So let's rock this clip. She's talking about New York. She's talking about the state of the race and then what it really means for the state of the race if Donald Trump has really closed the gap the way he has in New York, which it appears, judging by some of these anecdotal these anecdotes, like the union. What does it mean for the rest of the electoral college if that's the case? All right, let me just shut up and kick it to Kelly.
Harlem, I guess.
Hold on.
This morning, besides going to the bodega in Harlem, I guess this morning he went to this construction site on the Midtown, 48th and Park. And we have a poll. I don't know whether the poll's any, but he's narrowed the gap in New York to only 10 points. 4 years ago it was 23 points. So what's going on here?
What's going on is that Trump is actually expanding his coalition. His core constituency just looks and feels and is different. It's larger.
Yes.
But it's more diverse than it's been in the past, 2016 or 2020. Larry, why?
Oh my God, amen. As my son would joke, oh my God, it's Aquaman on live TV. Oh, he's so funny. He does this thing. It's so funny. I have a son. He could either be a fantastic chef, a beautiful sax player, a marine biologist, or a friggin' comedian. The kid is so talented all the way around like that. He's just a good-hearted boy. Good boy. He should be home soon, actually. I miss him. Anyway, he does this thing that just makes me, when we went to go see Aquaman 2, he made this joke with his girlfriend, and we were there, of course, and it was so funny. It's probably not something I should say on air, but it's so funny. I mean, it's how normal people in normal America joke, folks, and I just almost did what he did, because what Kellyanne is saying is, I mean, how many times have you heard that out of my mouth, folks? That Trump's coalition, MAGA, this time around, and maybe they're not even MAGA, but this time around, the Trump coalition is bigger. It is more diverse, less white. It's younger. This is different. People's like, oh, I'm getting these 2016 feels. It's not 2016. This is different. Very different. Even if Trump lines up losing the 18 to 29, he ain't going to lose them like he lost them in the past. Even if he doesn't tie Joe Biden with Hispanics, he ain't going to lose them like he did in the past. He's going to lose the black vote, but he ain't going to lose it like he did in the past. I'm telling you. The election was today anyway. And I don't know why it would be any different 6 months from now, because it's been the same for 13 months. She sees it. Very rare on Fox, Fox Business, any other mainstream media channel do you hear someone say what Kellyanne just said, which you will hear me say all the time. And that is because that is one of those truth bombs that they don't want to, Murdoch Inc., the Slim Inc., the Bezos Inc., they are not going to tell you this stuff. Time Warner, blah, blah, blah.
Because it includes even more union households than in 2016 when that helped us win in places like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Ohio. It includes more Hispanics and African Americans. It includes more women. People say, oh, he's not going to win women. Excuse me. He beat the Queen Bee herself, the would-be first female president of the United States, while a majority of the voters were female. We've been a majority of the electorate since 1964.
That's right.
And so even if he gets 4% more, 3% more, that New York Times Siena poll that shows Biden leading Trump in New York by 10 points, whereas Biden won New York by 23 last time. If it's half right, Biden's in trouble. But what Trump's doing, he's doing something Joe Biden can't do. Joe Biden can't command a crowd. He can't, it's just low energy, no excitement whenever he shows up somewhere. And what's ironic is this is the way the Democrats, like Barack Obama, particularly Bill Clinton, even Jimmy Carter at the time, all over Iowa, would go through the crowd and shake hands and talk to the people directly. It's been Trump at his rallies, Larry, up on the dais, now with the teleprompter above the people.
And they're cheering him.
They're switching roles now.
I just got to stop it real quick. I know the clip is almost done, but they are switching roles in almost everything. Trump is leading now as he's the leader of the people. He's the one for the working guy. He's the one for the one who's been silenced. He's the one for the one who's without privilege. The roles are reversed. He's the one walking through crowds. They're roping off people. Remember Hillary Clinton roped off supporters like a bunch of friggin' farm animals? And they were okay with it. Bill Clinton was the one who would mingle with people. Bill Clinton went on the this Arsenio Hall show and played the saxophone. Obama was the one who would mingle and mosey around. Joe Biden don't speak to anybody. They cordoned him off worse than they cordoned off the Queen Bee. And Trump is the one going to the bodegas, going to the McDonald's, going to the Wendy's, going to the steelworkers on the streets. Remarkable. Truly remarkable. I mean, I don't know how you don't expect him to be leading. Why? Because the Marist poll says Biden's up by 2? Bite me. Marist sucks and has sucked for a long time. Marist College once upon a time used to be very conservative, by the way. I don't know if you guys know that. It used to be a very conservative school. Then it was taken over by radical leftists, and everything went downhill, including their polling.
To the bodega, and a crowd just developed.
Chick-fil-A in Atlanta.
Chick-fil-A, it's God's chicken or the Lord's chicken. And then he does this thing in Midtown on 48th Street where they're building a big bank building. And by the by, you take a look at those construction workers. I see a lot of blacks. I see a lot of Hispanics.
Absolutely.
Okay. And they're the ones, and they're all chanting.
Asians.
So you know something's going on.
It's everybody.
And the Biden thing is just like dead air and dead weight.
Yep. And I'm just one small person, and people run up to me from all places, all spaces, many different faces. Tell him we're for him 100%. Some people say I didn't vote for him before, but things are so bad now. Biden's a real gift to Trump. I think also, ironically, even though he's stuck in the courtroom most days, Larry, he's on message.
Yeah.
And his message, he's projecting strength, resilience, perseverance, these great American qualities. But he's also the guy who's got the better plan on inflation economy. He's not going to hike your tax. He's not going to do 44% cap gains tax. I think that many of these people predicted when Trump was elected in 2016, he's going to be the king of debt. He should say, I'm the king of growth, and here's how, and here's why.
I love that king of growth. I love that. Are you kidding? You know how good that is?
You can have that.
All right, the king of growth. We're going to.
Yep, and I'll end it there with the king of growth. But they do have a way to hit him with the debt thing because of the CARES Act, which I vehemently did oppose. And I understand we were in a pandemic and it was not a good time. But I just, as a pollster and a political guy, I knew they were going to do this. I knew they were going to say, hammer away. Whoops. Whoop, whoop. I knew they were going to hammer away at this idea that Trump was a debt bomb maker because he's a debt bomb maker because of the CARES Act. And the truth is, yeah, it was a shitty bill and they should never have passed it. But the bill that Biden passed when he first came in office, and the Democrats passed with him, did not need to be passed. It included supposedly money to reopen schools according to CDC guidelines. Trump already funded that with the CARES Act and other amendments. So it was nothing but a kickback to Biden's donors. And tragically, that was like a double whammy of what we saw. So yeah. Let me kill this. Give me 2 seconds. We are going to move on here. It's 1:54. We're out of time almost. But I am going to continue to basically play a couple of clips that I think are important. One is first from a frequent guest of this show. He also happens to be one of Donald Trump's attorneys. He's coming back on to talk about this soon. And I just was a little stunned by how bad Fox is getting and has gotten over the years. I mean, they are awful, just awful now. Martha McCallum has always been a fake commentator. She put herself forward as some kind of and for some reason, I don't know why this isn't working. I'm gonna have to do what I did last time, but give me a second and I'll do it. But she's always been one of those people who put herself as forward as a relatively conservative person on Fox, and she has never been that. And she's like an Allison Camerata, which as she's come out of it has as she has been allowed to be more of who she is, she has gotten worse and worse. And Will shared the clip, and that's good. I'm glad you did, Will, because now I'm able to actually play it. It wasn't working on Fox's website. And I want to play it because listen to how she phrases it. And then we're going to go to somebody else who is phrasing what they heard at the Supreme Court a different way. It's what I heard. I'm not a lawyer, but I was talking to Sean Parnell after it. He heard it that way. And listen to how Martha McCallum comes in with this and how she poses the first question. It's incredible. As she's doing what media does that really pisses me off. It's like you're talking about something that's not up for debate. You're talking for something that's not actually a part of the story. And in this case, this argument for blanket immunity. Nobody was asking the Supreme Court for blanket immunity. Nobody. I don't know where it's it's a way for them to distract from the actual limited immunity, which is limited to acts committed during president. All right, hey, Roro, don't chase him around, buddy. That's how you can accidentally hurt him. He'll come in. He'll love you when he's ready. Grab one of his toys and bring it on in here. He'll follow you in. Get his toy. Get his dog or something and bring it in here, and he'll follow you. It's just he's going to have to go out soon. He's not going to want to be bothered with you doing what you're doing to him. All right, let's play Will.
Will Scharf joins me now, an attorney representing former President Trump in this case. He's running as a Republican for Missouri Attorney General as well. Will, thank you very much for being here today. You heard that back and forth between the justices. I think it was quite clear, just based on the tone and questions, that they do not appear to be in favor of blanket immunity for any president of the United States. Did you see it that way?
Look, we felt this morning's arguments went really well. And I say that primarily because it was clear that the justices were deeply concerned about the future of the office of the president, about the future of the American presidency, if they didn't provide some sort of legal safeguard against exactly the sort of political prosecutions we're now seeing brought against President Trump. So we were heartened by the fact that the justices we're taking these core constitutional questions very seriously, and we're excited to see what they come down with, probably before the end of the term at the end of June.
You know, it was interesting. There was a back and forth with Justice Brown Jackson, and she said to the attorney, "Are you looking for us to tell you how to divide private acts from public acts of a presidency? Is that what you're hoping we will determine as a court? Because it's very clear that they believe that there is a separation, that private acts can be punished." And before you answer that, I just want to play this interesting Amy Coney Barrett, Justice Barrett response on this. Listen to this.
So you concede that private acts don't get immunity?
We do.
3 private actors, 2 attorneys, including those mentioned above, and a political consultant helped implement a plan to submit fraudulent slates of presidential electors to obstruct the certification proceeding, and petitioner and a co-conspirator attorney directed that effort.
You read it quickly. I believe that's private. I don't want to.
So those acts you would not dispute. Those were private, and you wouldn't raise a claim that they were official.
As characterized.
So, Will, that one's pretty descriptive and sounds quite similar to what happened after the 2020 election. What did you make of what Justice Barrett was getting at there? It seemed that she believed.
And ironically, she clipped the moment where Barrett talks about, even in the extended definition for, or the extended coverage for immunity, how presidents should not be dealing with state level prosecutors. And I don't know. It's Fox News. I mean, I guess I was going to say, I don't know how you don't add that for context so you understand where she is fully going with it, but she didn't. And that's why I have to play another clip after. But unbelievable. But Will, as an answer for her here.
I mean, I would interpret that she believed, we'll see what she says, that she sees all of that as a private act, not an official act.
So to be clear, we've never made the argument that a president should have any sort of immunity for his private acts after he leaves office. Our argument has always focused on a president's official acts. That's a really important distinction under the law. And what we're really arguing for here is protection for a president for their official acts in office after they leave office. Obviously, no president has ever been prosecuted before in the history of the United States for their official acts in office. And notably, both the district court and the D.C. Circuit in this case said that absolutely no immunity applies even to a president's core official acts, core presidential responsibilities. That's the radical legal ruling that's on appeal before the court. And it seemed that the justices were deeply skeptical of that point, at least, that a president should have no immunity at all, even for the exercise of their core presidential functions. So we feel as though our arguments were largely vindicated by what transpired in front of the Supreme Court today.
Okay, so based on what you heard today, what do you expect is going to happen?
I don't like making predictions like that, but it certainly seems that the Supreme Court wants to ensure that the system we end up with is a system that preserves presidential prerogatives, that preserves the ability of the president to respond decisively to the situations that arise during the course of a presidency. And we think that ultimately will favor our side of the coin versus the special counsel's office.
So, Will, one quickie. So do you think that they will push that to either a lower court or to Congress to decide what those are, how to make that distinction?
What did he just say? What did he just say? All right, I know we got to wrap it up soon. I'm going to let him finish his thoughts, and then we'll do our last clip, and we'll go. I have a word on the book club, though, for Sunday.
In public, between official duties and private actions.
If any scope of immunity is recognized, I think the most natural course would be a remand back to the lower courts for further fact-finding and decision-making to implement that scope of immunity. That's what the D.C. Circuit did, actually, in a civil case called Blazing Aim that also touches on presidential responsibilities last year. We think that would be a natural result of an opinion recognizing presidential immunity in this case.
Very interesting. Thank you so much, Will. Good.
Thank you, Will. Thank you so much. All right, one more clip, and then we're going to go. I do have something I got to bring up, though, about the book club. I hope I don't forget. But I don't know how throughout that whole interview, she missed what I thought was honestly the most important part about the argument that they were making. And I have to go back to Fox News, but I have to go to the all-star panel for special report, all-star panel. I hate that. But sometimes you might get lucky and get somebody on who says something that has some semblance of intelligence. Normally, I would not say that with this person, but here it is. And let's bring it up. I'm going to play it. I'll make it bigger in a second. Whoops. And I'll rewind it.
Hugh, the two trials that Trump was involved with today were 200 miles apart, New York and Washington. They didn't overlap in any real legal sense, but I don't think there's any question that in the public realm, they intersect and impact one another, and certainly in the minds of voters.
Let me geek out a little bit and inform the audience that they go to a 2-hour and 20-minute mark in the oral argument that C-SPAN has posted. Justice Barrett raises the question of state prosecutors, implying, come on, at least aren't we going to give the president immunity from state prosecutors? Isn't that obvious? In the background, of course, is the abuse of law being conducted by Alvin Bragg, which is an embarrassment for anyone who's a prosecutor in name and in reality with an obligation to their oath. But I will say this about the argument. It's the con law greatest hit. Marbury versus Madison, McCullough v. Maryland, Korematsu's in there. They toss in every case you've ever talked about. It's a genuine case of first impression. It will be remanded. And if I had any guess to make it all, it's that the Chief Justice will keep this opinion to himself because it's going to be up there with another one that was mentioned, Youngstown Sheet and Tube, a touchstone, because no one's ever decided this before. It'll be the last day of the term. No one will be happy, but it'll be very important precedent, not just as they all made this point, this president, President Trump, or President Biden, but for every president for all time. So they'll take their time. Very important case.
So I'm going to end it there because I honestly, I couldn't agree with you and more on this. I think this is a huge landmark case. And it sounded to me that while they were, again, I don't know why we were even focusing on this like expanded definition because nobody was talking about that. We're talking about acts that are committed while the president is acting as president in this official capacity as president. And it sounded to me, I don't think you're going to get like a 9-0 unanimous ruling like we got from the Colorado case, for instance, because liberals are too ideological. But it does sound like at least a majority of those on the court were very concerned about what happens to the office of president when Donald Trump is no longer the one in it or seeking it. And it literally can be demolished here. This could make the president a eunuch. And it would be a sad ass future moving forward because he'd be constantly worried about his political opponents prosecuting him when he's in or out of office, regardless. Next, you'll see if this is allowed to stand. Next, you'll see an attack on the Justice Department's longstanding policy that you don't prosecute a president while he is a sitting president, which is why I always told people the special counsel was never going to indict Joe Biden, even if he found that he improperly stored those documents, which he did. And he found that. But that was never going to happen, not because he's senile, like he said, and that is what the report says. The guy is not going to be convicted by a jury. He's senile. He's just a forgetful old man. That was never going to happen, even on those grounds, even if he put that aside, because the Justice Department does not prosecute sitting presidents. That is the standard. That's the policy. That's the precedent. That will be attacked next. That will go next. And it'll be a free-for-all and a tit for tat. And it will destroy the office of the president. So I do think you're going to... I don't like making predictions with the Supreme Court. I'm not a lawyer, but I can't imagine this Supreme Court would allow the destruction of the office of the president, which is what it would result in. Nothing short of it. And I do think the Chief Justice is going to have to take this opinion himself. He will. And it'll be a while because it's that important. He mentioned Marbury versus Madison. That is a huge case. That's probably a good or an appropriate place to rank this case, because if the president is not afforded immunity during his committing acts, any act being committed during his presidency or her presidency, it will be impossible to do their job. If you don't understand that, I think people need to educate themselves on it, because this is look, Barack Obama could be prosecuted. The Attorney General in the state of Virginia right now, because he was a resident of Virginia, could prosecute Barack Obama for murder. He killed Anwar al-Awlaki and his friggin' cousin or some brother, whatever, I always forget, like 14 years old, without a trial. He wasn't arrested. There was no due process. He just murdered Anwar al-Awlaki, who was a terrorist or not, was a U.S. citizen. Al-Awlaki should have been arrested, brought back to the United States, and put on trial. That would have been the American thing to do. Instead, Obama just vaporized his ass and killed him. He killed him. It's no difference than the mob ordering a hit on an enemy. Not under the law. So, all right, I'm going to kill that here. Thank you to you, Hewitt, and everybody else we ran clips from. So just give everybody a hat tip. I had others, but man, it took so long to get through that first part, which I think was super, super, super relevant. All right, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Times. Of course, we have the book club, The Emerging Populist Majority by Troy M. Olson and Gavin M. Wax are next on the list. If you did not get it, you can get it quick on Amazon. Don't forget it. We did our little primer on the emerging Democratic majority. I think most of us have a grasp on that after reading especially Kevin Phillips's emerging Republican majority. Now we are moving into this book, Emerging Populist Majority, which is in the like of both. And I think John Judas and Rui Texera would, I don't think they do it all the time. We actually played an interview. They know they took that same terminology, not just the emerging majority, that they know they took the megalopolis and made it their own, the idealopolis is right. And they are giving a hat tip to Phillips, like, you're the man and we'll follow your lead on this. And Gavin and Troy do the same thing. It's really cool. It's a great book. Can't wait to dig into it. That starts. Hopefully the girls are back, or I got something going on, but I right now plan to hold book club on Sunday with or without Roman and Winston sitting at my feet. All right. Because I think it's that important. And plus I could always kick it to somebody else in book club. If I'm reading, it gets too crazy. That's what we do. And I kick it to somebody else. They read for a little bit and then take it back when I'm able. If he's pitching a 4-year-old fit or something, that's what we'll do. So I fully intend to make it to do this and move forward with this this week. Hopefully everyone's got their book. If not, we'll take our time with like a preface or something like that, which is written by oh my God, I'm forgetting his name. I'm so sorry, dude. I am so sorry. I always screw it. There's a forward by Raheem Kassim, and then there's an afterword by Steve Cortez. All right. Maybe we'll have Gavin and Troy on the show to discuss the book. I would love to do that, actually. I just keep forgetting. Troy, Gavin, if you're watching, you both have an open invitation. Come on next week. We'll fit you in somewhere. We don't, as you know, have a lot of guests, but when we do, we think it's important. All right. And we're going to have Will on. We'll have them on. It'll be a cool week next week. All right. That in mind, I'm going to kick rocks thanks to our sponsors over at The Wellness Company. Don't forget about their spike protein support. The link is in the description, along with Jam and Bean, our longtime sponsors. And I don't think I'm missing anything else. If you like the videos, like them, share them far and wide. Don't forget the best place to follow us is on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. Also in the description. You can either find the link there as well, or just click on the our polls thing on Locals and it will direct you to the public polling project. All right. So if we want another round to go out, we got to get them done. Otherwise, Laura will kill me for spending as much as I spent last year. And when that bill was due, she was unhappy. So to say the least. But she understands. We had to call that primary right. And we had to keep everybody else honest. It had to be done. And we're not that close to the election yet, but I would like at least a monthly tracking poll, maybe a quarterly, every 2 months dipping into the Rust Belt poll, stuff like that. The Sun Belt poll, all of that we're going to put together in greater detail when we get closer. So then the projects are separated and everybody knows what the fun they want. All right, that's it. I'm kicking rocks. I'm headed out of here. As always, thank you for watching Inside the Numbers. Thanks for supporting. Again, share, like, all that stuff really, 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 really helps with the algorithms and with the advertisers. So don't forget to do it before we're out. With that in mind, nothing but love for you. And Laura's not here, so I'm going to have to do my book club. See you on Sunday.